You're overworked, you're overwhelmed, but you're completely stuck. And that's the most frustrating place to be in your business, especially if you feel like you're doing everything right. In today's episode, I'm joined again by Miriam Faye. She's an ex-Fortune 500 CFO who now helps entrepreneurs understand what's keeping them stuck and helps them fix it. Today, Miriam and I are going to be talking about what happens when something is just not moving and how to figure out what the real bottleneck is before you burn out trying to push through it. This is the final episode in a series of 4 episodes. So if this is the first episode you're watching, go back to episode number 1. I'm going to link it here. We've covered what shifts when you get financially clear, how to find your real lifestyle number, and how to build a plan around it. So it's building a strategy and then clear goals to help you reach it. Let's get into it. Now we're talking about something that happens a lot because it happens in every business. You're constantly going to be reaching a goal, and then there's always a moment where you're going to feel stuck, and it's like no matter what you try to do, you just cannot get to the next goal. One really good example, if you watched episode 1, I was talking about my own story where I was making kind of 3K per month. I was feeling completely stuck. I could never get past that number and I was feeling so tired. And then that's when I met Miriam, whom I then started to work with because she became my financial strategist, my mentor for a few years. And at this time where I was stuck, we actually did something that triggered a strategy. And then we did all the steps needed to reach that goal. And what happened is that in 4 months, I went from 3K to 12K month, and then 72K that first year we worked together, and then it was 135 and then 150. Yeah, it's really important to understand the strategy. So that's what I really want to talk to you about. But what was your strategy, your framework for getting me unstuck?
I know it's the part which we've touched on in the other episodes. Not everyone loves spreadsheets and numbers. People, it tends to maybe a little bit anxious, but the way that it can actually really, really help you in your business is that most people are not aware because they've never been taught. You can actually map out how your business might look depending on if you go down path A, or if you go down path B, or if you just map out. And what I mean by map out is kind of figure out, if I make 5 sales at this price, I deduct my costs, I set aside taxes, what's left to pay me. By breaking it down into what things actually look like, and then you start testing, okay, what if I want to do 10 sales instead of 5 sales? It starts to become much more clear where the blocks are, right? So one might be if you're working by yourself, you start to see, okay, that means a 200-hour week. It's not going to happen, right? It's impossible. That's just one that often happens at the beginning where you're doing everything yourself. It's like you're going to run out of time, right? So understanding, okay, this is probably the maximum number of sales I can make if it's just me working in my business. And again, sometimes people don't realize even how many hours are required until they look at it and then they think that's not realistic. For example, if I tell you you're going to take 3 projects a week, you're like, no. By mapping out kind of the math and the costs and taxes and everything. This is where before you actually take any action, number 1, you can see where there's bottlenecks. It might also be that you are getting help with some few things in your business, but again, you get to the next level. Now, for example, you need more clients. You can find the different aspects of the business where this starts to look like it's not going to work. Mm-hmm. So that's the fun part, the good part of math, or having someone help map out that what your business actually looks like, is that you start to clearly see where you're stuck. So for example, in Chris's business, one of the first things that I did was I just mapped out based on the math and how her business looked now, and sat down with her and we looked at, okay, if you wanted to make 10K a month, how many projects would you need to be taking on? What kind of hours does this look like with your current pricing, etc. By taking a look at that and then taking a look at, like I said, path B, where if she decided to reduce a little bit, how much she was taking from every sale, so her costs would temporarily go up because she would add someone to her team or she would delegate. But we just looked at, okay, but how many extra sales would she need before this would make sense? Or she would be making the same or even more than if she's working alone. And that's what helped her quickly also see, I just need, for example, 2 more sales. It's not like I'm sitting here stressed and stuck, but really when I look at how many extra sales I need, this is, I think with the extra time, like I could easily do this. Yeah, that was step 1, was just mapping out, like I said, 2 paths in the business that were options and seeing like, what does this look like in terms of like sales and costs and estimated taxes and what's left to pay yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And we set up the financial goal. And then 2 big important things of me being able to reach that goal was I needed to delegate because I didn't have the time and I was really overworked and I was making so many mistakes. And we discussed this in episode 1. But before I could delegate, I had to somehow get this process out of my head into a system that I could actually show people. I could tell them and I could explain what they needed to do because I was reinventing the wheel every time. So it means that I was not even super efficient. I was wasting a lot of time. So I needed clarity on my process, which is one of the main things I tell my clients inside the program. They need to get their process completely mapped out. They need to streamline their systems and processes, even if they work alone, because it's not when you're burnt out that you're going to be doing this. You need to do it as early as possible. The other thing that we figured out is that I could free up a little bit more of my time if I could automate some of the admin stuff that I was doing. And that's where you told me about Dubsado. It's a CRM tool for small creative businesses. And so once I had a clear understanding about my process, we could then go into a CRM and automate parts of the inquiry process and the onboarding process where there's so much opportunity for automation. That alone saved me so much time every week that I could focus on bringing on more clients. And the other thing is, yes, we wanted to hire these 2 people, but then instead of hiring employees, we hired subcontractors that would be paid. I wouldn't have overhead costs or I wouldn't have to commit, which I think was a big thing as well that you helped me with understanding, okay, you try something and if it doesn't work, then you try something else. And the fact that they were not employees, but they were subcontractors, it gave me a little bit of confidence that, in 3 months, if it doesn't work, I can just see that it doesn't work and I can stop paying. I'm not stuck in something for years, right? So even at my level, because I was not making a lot, the numbers that you showed me reassured me. And then I knew that I could still pivot if it didn't work out.
That is kind of, again, what the numbers help you see, because growing from being working alone to actually scaling your business, a lot of people don't realize that basically always means taking home a little bit less per sale or your costs go up first before the sales expand. Because as you invest in your business, you free up time and then the sales increase after. But again, you can never be 100% sure, but it helps put in perspective. For example, if you have mapped out and this is how much my costs would increase. And the upside is that I would free up time and I know exactly how many extra sales I would need to bring in. Then you can create a plan and decide, I'm going to test this. It's not even this is forever. Like you said, if you sign employees and stuff, it can become complicated. It's why I'm such a big fan of your business, because it's de-risking for people the ability to try growing, because that there's a team there. Basically you have people on hand without the risk of all these big commitments. This is often one of the challenges when you want to grow a business is one is getting clear on the finances, which is okay, if I invest knowing exactly this is worst case is I pay this money and I don't manage to increase the sales, but at least what the investment is. But by getting clear on how much you would need to increase it, it also gives you a measure of this is working. And if it doesn't work, then you might need to figure out why and, try different things. But I think having that perspective is kind of even investing in this and trying for 6 months could give me years of freedom and increased profit and all this. And when you compare that to the initial amount that you're going to put in, it keeps you from staying stuck where you're not moving forward. And it's because you just feel that cost, you're worried about the cost.
It all comes down to understanding that being clear on the numbers allows you to find solutions. If you're not clear and you don't know and you keep doing more of the same, you're going to have more of the same results. So from that, it's really made such a big difference when we looked at all the options to reach this financial goal. And then once we had like a strategy, we just created those, reverse engineer what it would look like per month. And, like I think for a month, I was completely on systems because I wanted to get my process out, then focusing on understanding the right hire that I needed, then finding those people to take over for me. Then I had my own goals for bringing in more clients with the time that I freed up, and it really paid off. Everything that I've learned from you, like, I was just thinking about that first month where you pushed me to start delegating more in my business to last month. We made $28,000 in revenue, and I was in Thailand, Vietnam, and Malaysia. I did 4 sales calls, and, with the team that I was able to set up, we really just keep getting results because my entire time, like everything that I do is based on trying to improve the experience for my clients, understanding their needs. And I wouldn't be able to do that if I was stuck in project management, operations management, admin, client relations. I wouldn't be able to do that. But now I still have this knowledge, from the first time we did it, where every time I look at the numbers. So a month ago, like 2 months ago, I got a marketing manager and she did a full audit, and she told me like, okay, you have to keep doing YouTube videos because they're working well for you. Like people love them. I was thinking about stopping them because I didn't. And that's again, the things that you think that don't fully represent the reality. When you don't look at the numbers, you just don't have any idea. And then based on that, thinking that, okay, like I was almost going to stop my YouTube channel because I was trained, I was editing my own videos, I was scheduling my own videos, to now I was like, okay, like if YouTube is a good channel for me, how do I double down on this channel? And for me, the investment came, okay, like I want a YouTube editor. I want someone who's going to help me elevate my videos, someone who's going to understand about what people want to see. And that is just like this, that you make decisions in your business. Otherwise, I mean, every month you could just redo a new website. Well, actually, the last thing that you taught me was this. What you invest in your business should be directly related to your 6-month goal. If it's not part of the 6-month goal, it's something that can be done at a later stage.
Yeah. And I think this is because in this episode, like if people are stuck, they're not seeing progress. Like I said, number 1 is doing the math. So getting clear, that sometimes helps, like obvious blocks. But another thing that you do so well, Chris, amazing, is that you invest in people. And I think that's also so underrated, is that people, for example, because it's linked again to the finances, where looking at the finances, and I like to say, like, fund your investments with new sales, new money. Like a lot of people are like, oh, I need to have all this money in the bank. If you just figure out how many new sales like you need to cover like that investment, again, like you should be funding, because those investments that you make should be paying for themselves, right? And when you look at it in that perspective and you do that all the time, you're like, well, I'm not sure exactly what I'm doing right or wrong. I'm going to find someone who can help me. Again, like knowing, well, if this person can help me make, this many new sales, like they've paid for themselves, you get unstuck. Because if you're sitting there and you really don't know, that's not your area of expertise. Expertise usually takes a lot of years to acquire. And so by investing in the right people and bringing that into your business, and like I said, they bring in, like they pay for themselves, And so again, like that's the financial part of just understanding, like I can fund and I should, like, based on my 6-month goal, if I want to get here, I need to bring in like a marketing person to help me or something like that. You can, again, reverse engineer in everything. But if it's some very long-term goal, that might not be the priority right now. So if you do go and spend a ton of money and it's going to pay off in 5 years, it's not going to necessarily be a good investment for you right now. It's mindset, and it's also trust. Well, that trust is the mindset. Believing that it's going to work and doing it, because I think everyone has that feeling like, oh, it sounds good in theory, but then when it goes to actually taking action, it's like, it is trusting. And of course, like, I think it's being realistic, like I said, which is why it's important to have those measures of like, if I'm going to invest in this, how many extra sales is it going to bring me? Because I do see the other side sometimes that people invest in things and they actually don't require that it brings them back. I don't think that's always intentional, but people are pitching their services. It is important, like for the sustainability of your business, that there's some form of measure that it does free up your time. It does. Not everything is a good or the right investment for that right moment in your business.
It was lovely having you for all of this. It was so inspiring, and I hope it inspired some of you.
Yeah, I hope that it helps someone out there, again, realize like there's always a way forward. Chris's story, I know, is very inspiring, and we've hopefully shared something that helps you see a way to move towards your goals.
If this 4-part series helped you, please share it with a designer friend who needs to hear this. And if you're feeling stuck in your business and you don't really know why, I'm going to add the link to a business audit quiz that you can take. It only takes 5 minutes, but it's going to help you pinpoint the areas of your business that are keeping you stuck and what you should focus on first. And if you want to test out the tool that Miriam chatted about in episode 3 and 4, then you can also click the link in the description. I'll see you in the next video.